Hey everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it's time once again for another video. This time out, I wanted to do a recap of everything that I've watched movie-wise since the beginning of the year. I kind of go back and forth on doing these types of videos because I always think it's so easy for you guys to just click on my Letterboxd link and look and see what I watched, but some of you might want to, chill out to a video or just listen to me drone on in the background while I tell you about movies. So I do reviews every Sunday, but one movie a week isn't going to even be close to what I've watched this year. So I figured I would recap everything, and then as the year goes on, I'll do a monthly recap of everything I've watched. This will include January, February, and 99% of March. If I watch anything between now and the end of the month, I'll put that in the April video. But what I'll do is I'll just tell you the name of the movie, I'll tell you a little bit about it, and I'll give you my very brief rating of it, star rating or whatever, and move on. I'll talk a little bit more about movies I liked, and I probably won't talk as much about movies that I didn't like. The first movie that I watched in January of 2026 was on Netflix, and it's a documentary called Cover Up, made in 2025. It's about journalist Seymour Hersh, and it basically just reviews some of the things that he's uncovered that the government has covered up, the government being the United States government, and sort of the politics of getting information from people and how easy it is and how easy it isn't sometimes to get information. And I gave that a 8 out of 10. Next up, I watched Warlock from 1989. It's part of this Warlock collection on Blu-ray, and that I did a review on, so I won't spend too much time on that, but I gave that a 7 out of 10. I also watched Dangerous Animals on Shudder from 2025, and that was an interesting movie. It's a lot of fun. It's a shark movie, but the sharks really aren't the villains. The people are the villains. That's the way I like it because I love sharks. Sharks don't want to kill people, but people like to kill people. So definitely check out Dangerous Animals on Shudder, and I gave that a 7 out of 10. I also watched Jay Kelly on Netflix from 2025, and that stars George Clooney and Adam Sandler. And that's a movie that was sort of had Oscar buzz around it. I didn't find it as magical or masterpieceal. There's a word for you. I thought it was okay. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Next up, I watched Legends of Dinosaurs and Monster Birds on Blu-ray. I actually bought this sight unseen because I love my kaiju movies. This was made in 1977, and it's terrible. It's absolutely one of the most... The special effects are bad, but the people suck. I mean, the characters are bad. It's just a bad movie all around, and I gave this a 3 out of 10. Then I watched Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. This was the last movie. Well, no, I take that back. I have another movie by Rob Reiner in my pile here. But this is one of the last movies made by Rob Reiner, and of course it's the sequel to 1984's classic Spinal Tap. This I gave a 7 out of 10. It's funny. It's subtly funny. It'll make you chuckle, but you're not going to die laughing. But if you like the first movie, you'll like this. It's pretty close, but nowhere near as good. Then on HBO Max or CNN, I'm not sure which, I watched the documentary I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not from 2025. That was entertaining, although it proves what kind of an asshole Chevy Chase is. And I gave that an 8 out of 10. Then I watched a film noir. I watched it on Tubi, but then I bought it on Blu-ray called Pitfall from 1948. And this stars Dick Powell and Elizabeth Scott. This is a very interesting and entertaining film noir. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Also from the 50s, or I'm sorry, from the 50s, not also from the 50s, I watched Night of the Blood Beast. I gave this a review on the channel, and you can watch that here, and I gave this a 4 out of 10. Also on streaming, I watched Albert Brooks Defending My Life. That's the other Rob Reiner movie that I watched this month. I had a real big addiction to Albert Brooks movies when I was younger. I thought he was hilarious. I don't know that I grew out of him, or he just changed, or we just changed, and I don't find his more recent movies as compelling as the ones he made up through till the beginning of the 90s. But I really enjoyed the documentary, the conversation. I didn't really know anything about the guy himself, and I thought it was a very good movie, very cool discussion between Rob Reiner and Albert Brooks, and I gave that an 8 out of 10. I also watched The Running Man on streaming, and that I gave a 7 out of 10. It's not anywhere near as goofy or campy as the 1987 Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but the Glenn Powell version is much closer to the book. They did change the ending, not for the better, but it's still worth watching. It's still entertaining. It's just not something that I decided to buy. I then watched Begonia. This I watched on streaming, ended up picking up the Blu-ray. I liked this a lot. I did a review of this on the channel. I gave this a five stars out of 5 is my Letterboxd rating, and I think I gave it a 10 out of 10 on my review. Then I watched Song Sung Blue from 2025, starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. I was going to call her Kate Pearson for some reason. This is a lot of fun, much more interesting than I thought it would be. It's a story of two people doing a Neil Diamond tribute band, and they fall in love, and it's a true story. I did get a copy of the documentary. I want to watch that, but this is one of the better movies if you're into like romantic movies that aren't real. I don't know. I don't want to say manipulative, because I think this kind of gets manipulative, but I don't know. It was interesting, and I really liked the chemistry between the two characters. Gave this an 8 out of 10. Then on Shudder, I watched The Coffee Table from 2022. That is a disturbing movie. I have to say that it's a movie that stuck with me for many days after watching it. It still creeps into my consciousness after watching it. I'm not going to give anything away. It is not for the squeamish, but it is a very good movie. It's morbidly hilarious if you've got a really bad sense of humor like I do, or a gross sense of humor, or dark sense of humor. But it's a very good movie. It's really, really well done, and it is in Spanish, so you will have to watch it with subtitles if you don't speak Spanish. Then I watched on HBO Max, I watched 1957's The Disembodied. This was a sort of goofy 1950s jungle, I don't even know what you would call it, sort of jungle romp, I guess, voodoo movie. It was not that great, but the lead star in it, her name was Allison Hayes. She was not so bad to look at, so she probably made the movie more entertaining than it should have been, and I give that a 5 out of 10. I'm sorry, a 4 out of 10 for Disembodied. 5 out of 10 for Volunteers, which is the next movie I watched from 1985. And stars John Candy, Tom Hanks, and Tim Thomerson is in it as well. I love Tim Thomerson. But John Candy's character I really enjoy and wish he was in it more. Tom Hanks plays kind of against type, and he's not really likable. So I think as a result, I didn't like the movie as much as I normally would a Tom Hanks comedy from the 80s. Then for Martin Luther King Day, my wife and I watched Selma made in 2014. The story of Martin Luther King Jr. and his movement and march in Selma. As much as I liked the movie, though, the dialogue kind of took me out of it, because everybody sounded like they were trying to make a speech during the movie, and I thought it was kind of artificial that way. The events and, of course, the things that happen in the movie are interesting, and of course it's a true story, and Martin Luther King was a great man, and yada yada yada, but the movie itself kind of suffers because the writing isn't so hot. I gave that a 7 out of 10. Next up, I watched Beast of War on Shudder. This is a shark movie, a World War II shark movie. Again, the sharks aren't necessarily the villains, they just happen to be hungry, and people are out in the water, although I wouldn't say this is a very realistic movie. It's a lot of fun, and it's actually got some pretty good dialogue and some good characters in it, so I really enjoyed this one. It's not perfect. It's going to sound weird because it sounded like I just slagged Selma, and I'm giving this the same rating. I give it a 7 out of 10, but it's just better than I expected it to be. Next up, I watched Madam Web. I did a review of this on the channel, so you can check out that video for my in-depth thoughts on it. But I gave this a... what did I give this? I gave this a 3 out of 10, I believe. Yeah, a 3 out of 10 for Madam Web. Then on Prime, I watched a movie called The G from 2023. This stars Dale Dickey, and she's an older woman with sort of a mysterious past, and she gets put against her will into an old folks' home, for lack of a better way of putting it, against her will. And because of her background, she makes a few phone calls, things happen. It gets really interesting. It's kind of a slow burn, but it's a really great performance from Dale Dickey, and I really wasn't expecting to like the movie as much as I did, and I'll give that an 8 out of 10. Then I watched 1970s Skullduggery. This is a movie that Burt Reynolds is in, and apparently he is disavowed, but it is basically him and a group of explorers discover what is apparently the missing link between apes and man, and sort of the politics of what goes on with that discovery. It's kind of funny, it's kind of goofy, but it really shows that things haven't really changed all that much since 1970. And I give that a 7 out of 10. Then from this Hammer Films collection, I watched The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll at the behest of many of you who saw my review of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde back during the Halloween 15. It was an interesting version. It was a little more romantic. Maybe not romantic, more melodramatic, I think is the word that I'm looking for. It's not a completely faithful translation of the Robert Louis Stevenson book, but there's enough changes to make it interesting and not feel like you're watching the same movie over again. I liked it. Oliver Reed is in it in a very brief, uncredited role. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Then I watched Event Horizon. I did a review of this in February for my Second Chance reviews. You can watch that video, but I gave this a 7 out of 10. Then I watched Cool World, which I also did a video for a Second Chance review, and I gave that a 1 out of 10. And then the last movie that I watched in January for this year was Anaconda. It wasn't out on Blu-ray then, but I did watch it on streaming, then bought the Blu-ray. This is okay. It's not the greatest film in the world, if neither is the original Anaconda. I gave this a 6 out of 10. It's funny. It might get better with repeated watchings, and maybe I miss some stuff, but Jack Black and Paul Rudd are really funny in it. So that closes out January. For February, first movie I watched was The Naked Gun, which I had started watching sometime last year, and I really did not like it. I turned it off after like 10 minutes. I really thought it was terrible. I just didn't give it a chance. I ended up watching it again at the beginning of February, and lo and behold, I was probably in a much better mood. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Then I watched, actually on the same day, I watched Deep Rising with Treat Williams and Famke Janssen. This is a kaiju film of sorts. It's about a giant sea creature who attacks an ocean liner while it's being robbed. It's got a lot of action. The CGI isn't particularly wonderful, but the dialogue is hilarious. The characters are goofy. It's campy Saturday morning fun or Saturday afternoon fun. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Then I watched a movie called Primitive War, which is a dinosaurs in Vietnam movie, or during the Vietnam War movie. It's supposedly about this secret mission that took place in the Vietnam War that gets out of hand, and there's velociraptors and T-Rexes and stuff. It's actually pretty good for as low budget as it is. It's just a little too long. It's about 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It needs an editor badly, but it's still fun, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. I also watched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which I did a review of on the channel. Gave it a second chance review. Originally didn't like it. Second chance, I liked it much more, and I gave this an 8 out of 10. Next, I watched Roger Corman's Monster from the Ocean Floor, which is barely over an hour long, but it feels much, much longer. It's, you know, the usual Roger Corman thing, overpromise and underdeliver. That's what this is. It's not that great. I gave it a 4 out of 10. Then I watched The One I Love. I watched this in preparation for our Valentine's Day show on Talking Movies with Sean Kinney and Jim. And this I really enjoyed. I really recommend it. It was one of my movies on my list. And this I gave an 8 out of 10. If you like Mark Duplass and Elizabeth Moss, definitely check this out. Then I watched Primate on streaming, and that's from 2026. It was released in 2026, made in 2025. You pick which year you want to call it. I think it came out the first week of January. Anyway, it's okay. It's got some great practical effects in it if you like that kind of stuff. If that's all you're looking for, you'll be very happy with it. Plot-wise, it's nothing you haven't seen before. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Then I watched If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which is a tale of two things. There's a fantastic performance from Rose Byrne in this movie. Definitely worth the Oscar nomination that she got. But the movie itself is so stressful, it literally ruined my day when I was watching it. Uncut Gems is an enjoyable, stressful movie because you're kind of wondering what's going to happen next and you're really kind of keeping up with it. This just stresses you out and doesn't really help in any way, shape, or form other than leave you feeling like shit at the end of the movie. So Rose Byrne is a 10 out of 10. The movie is a 6 out of 10. Then I watched The Devil's Advocate. I did a review of this on the channel, so you know my feelings on that. I gave that a 7 out of 10. Then I went to the theater. The first movie I went to the theater this year to see, and that was Send Help. It's a Sam Raimi film, and I really like Sam Raimi's work. Something about the movie just didn't click with me, though. I liked the premise. I thought the premise was fantastic. I just didn't click with it. I'll definitely be picking it up on Blu-ray to watch again. I didn't hate it. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I think I might had I watched it at home. I don't know. Going to the theater lately has been an unpleasant experience for the most part, just because people are real assholes at the theater, so it kind of takes me out of the movie. I'm starting to get to that age where I prefer watching movies at home, and I hate saying that because I love theaters, but I think this may have been caught up in that, and I don't want to count that against the movie, but as it is right now, I give it a 6 out of 10. Then I watched Never Cry Wolf, and this stars Charles Martin Smith as a researcher who's dropped into the Arctic, and he is to study the wolves, find out why the caribou are going, not extinct, but they're disappearing at a super fast rate, and the government believes it's because of the wolves. So Charles Martin Smith, it's based on a book by Farley Mowat, and it's a true story, but he goes in and he spends some time with the wolves. It's one of the best adventure movies I've ever seen, and I gave this a 10 out of 10. And then last, for February of 2026, the last movie I watched was Runaway Train. This is another recommendation from Jim. And this was really entertaining. Not what I was expecting at all. The performances from Jon Voight and Eric Roberts are, I don't want to say hilarious, but they're just way over the top, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all. And Rebecca De Mornay is in this, and she plays a great role. This is not your typical action movie. Jim is saying this is one of the best movies that ever came out of Cannon Films, and I would have to agree with him on that. This is really entertaining, but I liked it because of reasons I didn't think I'd like it for, if that makes any sense, and I gave this an 8 out of 10. And that takes care of February of 2026. Let me move some stuff around here. We'll get to March. All right, first movie I watched in March of 2026 was Kentucky Fried Movie. This was directed by John Landis. This is very similar to the Airplane movies style of humor because the Zucker brothers are part of this, as far as Jerry Zucker and David Zucker, and then James Abrams is on this as well. He wrote the screenplay, or they wrote the screenplay, also known as Zaz, Z-A-Z. They went on to do Airplane and other stuff, Police Squad, Naked Gun. If you're into that, this is where it started. It's a little rough around the edges, but it is a lot of fun, and I gave it a 6 out of 10. Then I watched, and I didn't watch this copy, I watched my original copy, and I went out and bought this copy because I liked it so much. This is Sorcerer from 1977. I did a review of it on the channel. You can watch that, but I gave this a 10 out of 10. Then on the last showing of The Last Drive-In on Shudder, last regularly scheduled episode, he did a double feature of Messiah of Evil and The Last Horror Show, or Last Horror Film, I'm sorry. Messiah of Evil was from 1974. It was directed by William Hayek, and he also directed Howard the Duck. It is a very bizarre film. It is an interesting film. It's a very artsy film, a very artsy horror film, which is kind of strange. It's not for everybody, but I'm glad I watched it while watching Joe Bob because of the way he's able to explain things and kind of give you the background of the movie as you're watching it, and that made it a lot more enjoyable. I don't think I would have liked it had I watched it as a standalone movie, but on Last Drive-In, I gave it a 7 out of 10. And then the last horror film, from 1982. This stars Joe Spinell and Carolyn Monroe. I forgot the cast. That's sad. This is the same thing. It's not a movie I probably would have watched as a standalone movie, but watching it with Joe Bob made it fun, and I gave it a 7 out of 10. Then I watched 1979's The Great Alligator. This is an Italian sort of Jaws ripoff, kind of ish. There's a resort down in the jungles of South America that is attacked by a giant alligator. This is not great. It's a lot of fun if you like this type of movie. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Then a movie that I have been wanting to see for quite a while, Richard Franklin's Road Games. Australian movie with Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. I liked the soundtrack, the premise of it, the dialogue. I thought Stacy Keach's performance was a lot of fun, and the sort of self-loathing he has for himself in this movie is entertaining. Jamie Lee Curtis plays a spoiled rich girl. I don't want to give too much away, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. Then I watched Predator Badlands. I watched it on Hulu, but then I ended up picking up the 4K of it. This was a lot of fun. A lot of people don't like this movie because they think it's like a Disneyfication of the Predator franchise. I don't think so. I think it just gives you another perspective. All people are not the same. All predators are not the same. How's that? I thought the performance from Elle Fanning in this was really good. The guy that plays the Predator, Demetrius Schuster Kolamatangi, I guess that's how you say his name, and I apologize if I'm screwing it up. He gives sort of a motion capture performance, I'm assuming. It's really good. It's a really entertaining movie. If you like the backstory of the Predators, you want to learn more about them, this is a great watch. Then I watched on HBO Max, I watched The Dead of Winter with Emma Thompson and Judy Greer. I really enjoyed this movie. There's a lot of holes in it. If you go back and think about it after you watch it, the holes kind of get bigger and bigger. But as you're watching it, the movie is very gripping and very entertaining, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's just a movie that you don't really want to think about afterwards. Then I watched Frankenstein on Netflix from 2025. I really enjoyed it. Guillermo del Toro's version of the classic Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is close enough to the book that I liked it. I read the book maybe 20 years ago. It's closer to the book than, say the Boris Karloff or any of the Hammer versions are. I I liked it a lot more than Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from the 90s with Robert De Niro as the monster. I thought the performances were fantastic. Oscar Isaac is really good. And Jacob Elordi as the creature is fantastic as well. Special effects are just second to none. And I gave that a 9 out of 10. Next up, I watched Riff Raff from 2024. I watched that on Hulu. It's got a great cast. It's got Jennifer Coolidge, Bill Murray, Pete Davidson, Ed Harris, Lewis Pullman. The scenes with Bill Murray and Pete Davidson are comedy gold. I loved the chemistry between their two characters. Bill Murray and anybody else on the screen, those scenes are fantastic. Any of the scenes with Jennifer Coolidge, I really just wanted to curl up in a fetal position. The dialogue they gave that character is terrible. But it's not enough to ruin the entire movie. I thought it was entertaining enough to give it a 7 out of 10. Then I watched Steel Dawn. I did a review of this on the channel, so you can see that. I gave this a 5 out of 10. Sorry, my cat is distracting me. 5 out of 10. You can watch the video and see more in depth. Then I watched SWAT, which I also made a video of. I gave this a 4 out of 10. You can watch the video to get my thoughts on that. And then the last movies that I watched in March so far, I watched 1993's Sonatine, which is written and directed by Takashi Kitano. I discovered Takashi Kitano when I saw his version of Zatoichi, the Blind Swordsman from 2003 in the theater. Completely caught me off guard. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I loved it. And I've watched a lot of his other movies. I have yet to see a movie that he's in that he wrote and directed. He's been in some movies that aren't so great by himself, but the movies that he writes and directs always seem to be really stellar. This was no exception. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Check it out. It's a Yakuza movie that is not your typical Yakuza movie, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's very artsy, but it's also very good. And then the last movie I watched so far this month was Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Jim had been getting on me about watching this as well. I finally did it, Jim. This is fantastic. It's an 8 out of 10, one of the silliest and most hilarious horror comedies I've ever seen. Tyler Labine, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He is hilarious. Alan Tudyk from Firefly is in it. He is fantastic. And Katrina Bowden, smoke show. Woof. But this is a really, really funny movie if you like horror movies and comedies. Together, it's like a Reese's cup. You got your peanut butter in my chocolate, or my chocolate in your peanut butter. You got my horror in your comedy, or my comedy in your horror. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. Directed by Eli Craig and written by Eli Craig and Morgan Jurgensen from 2010. Tucker and Dale versus Evil, 8 out of 10. So that's it. I hope I didn't talk too fast or too long, and I apologize for the difference in the way my voice sounds. I sound like crap because I'm sick, but also my microphone died halfway through the video, and I didn't want to start over again, so I apologize for the difference in audio quality at the beginning of this adventure and the end. So yeah, I'll do these every month now for the rest of the year. Let me know how you like these. Do you like these more than me not doing them? Or do you prefer that I do the old ones that I did animated, where I just rap through the movies and give you my star ratings, and then that's it? You let me know. But my plan is to make more. And they won't be this long because they won't be 3 months worth of movies. So, as always, if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate your attention span. And thank you very much for subscribing if you've done so. And if you haven't, click the button below, and I'd really appreciate it. Hit the like, the thumbs up button. That helps the channel out a bit. We've sort of stalled on subscribers lately, so hoping to get the algorithm kickstarted. So if you could share this video or comment on it and let me know what you thought, that would be awesome. So thanks as always. Take it easy.